This is a quick question. How many of you have seen me present before? Okay, new jokes. Also, new information. I was very flattered when you asked me to come, and I have developed fresh data and a fresh approach, and I've tried some new things, personally tried some new things. I am not up here talking theory. I'm up here talking things I have tried. Okay, and I want to share some real resources with you to fix some things that are wrong. So with that in mind, I'm running a tape because I've never seen this before either. Okay. Well, thank you for having me. How's the economy? I need 3 people. How's the economy? He says, depends where you are. Well, if you look at growth of GDP, in the last 16 quarters, we've had 2 bad ones. The recession is over. If we look at productivity per person, look at these numbers. We are killing the productivity numbers compared to the rest of the world. Americans are doing great. How's Tippecanoe County? How are we? Well, good news. Unemployment rate is low. Is that good news? Yikes! You have full employment. The only people that aren't working are people you don't want. Therefore, we do not have a body shortage, we have a talent shortage. Is that fair? One of my clients turned to me and said, our business practices are being hindered by the fact that we can't hire. He said, I would hire 250 skilled laborers today, and we could get bigger projects. Show of hands, fair? Yeah. So, okay, pop quiz. So far, how many of you, since we convened 12 minutes ago, show of hands, be honest, how many of you have checked your phones? You're busted. Jim? Yeah, I was watching. Do you Google for information 20 times a day or more? Do you use your mobile phone for more than 10 things? Have you turned over remembering to technology? Do you speak emoji? You have kids, you have to. What? I predict in 10 years we will be back to Egyptian hieroglyphics. So we're going to, the more of those you said yes to, the more you are an honorary millennial. Why focus on them? Because we are seeing the tightest labor market in decades. And the people we're having to focus on are the millennials. And they're just passing through. 66% of your current employees under the age of 35 do not intend to be with you in 5 years. Tick, tick, tick. So the challenge is turnover is huge. They are coming in with short attention spans, and job hopping is rampant. Show of hands. Organizations are failing to properly screen, connect with, and inspire this new breed of employee, and that's your fault. Cost of turnover per head is huge. We've always argued about this in HR, but it's a big number. We can never get the show of hands, how many chief financial officers are in the room? You don't believe these numbers anyway. It's a soft number. We get it. But since more than 60% of millennials that you currently have will leave within 5 years, it's a costly problem, but how does it affect the ones that remain? How's productivity? How's morale? How's your client contact? How's your patient care? So we've got to fix this, and we're going to fix it in 2 ways. First, we're going to keep the good ones you already have, so you have less turnover. And second, if you're a high performer, with the power vested in me by this remote, Domini, 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 you're all high performers. What do you work for? I need 4 or 5 people. Tell me what a high performer is motivated by. Ready, go. Pardon? Making a difference. Results. A company that will develop them. Someone said a paycheck, paycheck. Money is a ticket to entry, not a long-term motivator. One more. Appreciation. Notice, these things come from a good relationship with a boss they respect. This comes from working with a high-performing team. If any of you want to see this in action, give me a call. Come visit me at Gregory & Appel. We've got 120 people, and it's spectacular. People are terminated for their attitude, not their performance, because we know one bad apple spoils that bunch. Fascinating. So, for those of you with short attention spans, and you know who you are, here's the hot list. I've got this in your handout. Figure out who your high performers are. You may not know them. We in human resources, the only ones we know are the low performers. Train first-line managers in what? If you had one thing to train them on listening skills. Quick show of hands, how many of us are extroverts? Extroverts, put up your hands. Introverts, do nothing. It's an old joke, but it's a great one. What did one introvert say to the other? Okay. We have to hire to a higher standard. Your high performers want to work with people smarter than themselves. We have to constantly train our high performers. We have to test fast, fail fast, and adjust fast. Let me give you some tools to do that. But first, let me scare you a little bit about the millennials. So, just a quick review of some silver bullet answers. We're going to hire for values and job fit. We're going to onboard quickly and with care. Somebody shows up, they need to be welcomed quickly and not given any chance for buyer's remorse. Keep training them, know your people, listen well. Be a fair and consistent boss, not their buddy or their friend. And help them see a career path, and they'll stick around. At least they'll, if your high performers stick around 10% longer than your competition, is that a competitive advantage? 10%, is that good enough? We can do 10%. Now, there were a couple surprises when I got to work on this presentation. One is that the millennials are over. If you hire somebody who's 21, they're no longer a millennial or younger. If you've got an intern, we don't have a name for them yet. I dubbed them Gen Wireless. They became aware when Google was invented. They do not need to know anything. The entire wisdom of Western civilization is available to them in 30 seconds. They just have no critical thinking skills. So, millennials have majority. They're good, they're confident, they're ambitious, they're tech savvy. All valuable qualities that we want. Show of hands, Gen Xers. Bad news. Your moment in the sun is over. For 3 years, you were the largest group in the workforce. This year, 2016, millennials are the largest group in the workforce and will be so. It's also interesting, millennial unemployment rate, if we drill into it, is the adjusted millennial unemployment rate is 7%, 7 point something. It varies by ethnic background, but by and large, their unemployment rate has been dropping because CFOs are finally releasing some money to hire people because growth can only occur at this point if we staff up. They're the most diverse generation. Caucasians are within 15 to 16 years of being a minority compared to all of the diverse populations that are a part of our economy. It's interesting, they're the smartest, most educated generation ever. It's also interesting to see the delta between our grandparents, where men outranked women 2-to-1 in education, boomers still led, Xers, it was parity, millennials. When I went to Purdue, it was 5-to-1 male to female. Purdue is majority female. But it's also interesting with the dropping unemployment rate, they're not moving out of your basement. A third of millennials are not moving out of your basement. Show of hands, how many of us are human resources professionals? You do an aggressive performance review on a new hire. They go home in tears. Their parent calls. Anybody have this happen yet? Parent calls and says, I don't fire my daughter. I want her out of my basement. Yeah. Also, is education still worth it? The answer is yes. We in human resources cannot discriminate by age, race, sex, national origin. What can we discriminate by? College degree. Yeah, it's worth it. But the things that matter the most to millennials: personal development, training, resume building, next step. But they're going to leave me if I train them. Yeah, they're going to leave you anyway. If you train them, they will stay longer. They say this, I got this off Charlotte Works. Number one with a bullet, training and development. Number two, flexible working hours. Money's not number one. Now, it's also interesting that they say millennials are often unhappy in general. Where's that come from? I figured it out. Happiness equals reality minus your expectations. They were protected from reality as children. We thought we were protecting them from harm. Boomers knew that the longer in life, the more good stuff you got. And they had a global expansion that happened and good things occurred, so they did okay. They were happy. Same reality curve, millennials were overpromised and we underdelivered. And they stepped out of education at the same time that the economy was a little rocky. So their parents thought their grandparents were happy to have a patch of dirt. Their parents were hoping for a patch of grass. Millennials were promised flowers. And millennials, being somewhat narcissistic, thought, well, everybody gets flowers. I get unicorns. Okay? And then they go onto the echo chamber of Facebook and Pinterest and Snapchat and share pictures of their happy lives and depress everyone who's not at a wine bar that night. That's a screen grab of my daughter's Facebook page. Happy! Right. But the most scary is the one we're not really talking about. I want to plant a seed for a future discussion. Make a note, Mr. Wagoner. Let's look at the ethics of the generation you're fixing to hire. Have you cheated on an exam once, at least, in the past year? Yes. In the real world, successful people do what they have to do to win, even if others consider it cheating. Yes. Newsflash, these will be your new hires. Note to self, schedule ethics classes. How many of us work in manufacturing and have a safety moment at the start of each shift meeting? I propose everyone in the room have an ethics moment at the start of every staff meeting. We need to start baking this in. So, you with me so far? Are you a little scared? We've got to do two things. We've got to upskill our managers so that they connect with these people better, and we have to backfill with higher quality people. But we have a problem. In interviewing, both parties are lying. It's like dating. I love cats. I love football. I'm a great employee. Well, we're a terrific place to work. Some jokes are just for me. Understand that we have to do a better job. I mean, if you're buying a $500,000 copier, how much do you know about it? Oh my God, everything. investing in a mid-level manager who's going to be with you for 10 years, is that $500,000? CFO? Is that $500,000? CFO says yes. Okay. Conventional hiring's formula has been you're making a decision based on their hair. You know it's true. Structured interviewing. Give me an example of a time you solved a problem under pressure, and if you can't think of anything, please tell me a story. So how do you hire? In general, you accept a form. Nothing on the form or resume indicates high performance. Then you call them and see if they can come in. Then you get them in if they show up. Then you decide to spend some money on them with an assessment tool if that's part of your process. Then you decide if you can stand them. Then you call their mom and their priest. And then you marry them on the third date. Is this fair? Stop it. We in human resources have known that what's more important, skills or values? What's more important, attitude or what they can do? Now, okay, asterisk. I really don't care about the personal style of the pilot of my airplane. I want him to be a really good pilot. Okay, so there are asterisk times where skills overrule. But by and large, my point is high performers want a culture of people that get along with each other. They don't quit because they quit, of all the normal things, they quit because they don't like you, or they don't like their supervisor, or they're not aligned with the vision and values of the organization. Alternatively, if you have somebody who is aligned with your values, they will take the second shift. If they've bought into the purpose of what you do, even if it's making fertilizer, they will be there and they will put in the extra effort. So we need to redesign this using lean theory. We don't have time. We need to have them doing most of the work. So I should explain, I have been out there, I'm an assessment snob, I have used a lot of them. Most of them don't work. I found a couple that did, but they're really expensive. I have recently found some tools that are disruptive to this, that are cheap and good, and I used one of them to test it out. And with that, I redesigned the process. You've heard of walking treadmill desks? I propose we should do hamster wheel desks because fewer workers' comp problems of people falling off the back. Like that? Yeah. So we want to eliminate waste, we want to value each other, and we want to build a high-performing culture, and we want to do it where it takes us less time and doesn't cost us much money. Anybody with me? Ready? Yeah. Okay. Understand that in general, everybody is dissatisfied with what you're doing. Most people regret their decision later. That new hires are already planning to leave. Highest priority hires often fail in 18 months. And overall, 1 in 5 rates the decision a complete success. These are lousy numbers. Nowhere else in your business process would your CFO accept this. Because we've been measuring the wrong things. Valid psychometric assessments are useful. So, in general, a trailing indicator is how you're doing next year. Is that fair? Employee engagement is a sign you're starting to get it right. We want a leading indicator, and the best one is the quality of the fit for the culture and the style of your organization. Also that they know what they're doing. So, remember this? We were just there. We're going to make 2 changes. First, I'm going to take all those tough first interview questions and I'm moving them forward before we even meet the person. I'm putting the application, the tough interview questions on the application itself. And if you have a paper application, you can add this in Microsoft Word and not cost a thing. And if you give me a card afterwards that says hiring on it, I will send you a copy of a Microsoft Word document that does exactly that, and you can make it your own. So I'm going to put values questions in the application form. Questions like, What do you value in coworkers? They'll tell the truth on that. What was your favorite boss and why? They'll tell the truth on that. Okay? Then I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this assessment, find one that's cheap and good, and put it right up front before I even talk with them, and use the assessment to rank who I'm going to talk to. We recently, at my organization, I tried this. We put out an ad. We got 70 applicants. Normally, what do? You look through 70 applications. No, I put them through an assessment tool that was programmed for our culture, and I only looked at the top 12. I used the assessment tool to do the first cut. Saved me hours. See what we've done? See how much we know early? All right. Because I want them to fit the manager, I want them to fit the job, I want them to fit their team, and I want them to fit us. And that chord on the piano I can program into that assessment. Because what they can do is their credentials. That's on the resume. Who they are is not. That I can get from the psychometric assessment tool. And then how they work together, I can also pull that from the assessment tool. That's the chord on the piano I'm looking for. You know, it's like that iceberg thing. The resume only shows me the top of the iceberg. Besides, there's 10,000 books on Amazon on how to fake it on a resume. It's an arms race. You know, I want attitudes. I want who they are. I want what they prefer. And I'm not going to get that from a resume. Also, do high performers have current resumes? They're busy working. Would you hire a high performer without a resume? Who here has hired a high performer without a resume? Come on, you've done it, right? Do high performers always have resumes? No. Do low performers always have resumes? They wrote them on your time. Yeah. Preparing for this, I called a high-end search firm up in Chicago and asked them what the trends are on resumes. And they went, we don't accept resumes. We find them. So where? They said LinkedIn. Interesting. Is the modern resume LinkedIn? Yeah. So the high performers you're approaching haven't put effort onto a paper resume, just they've got a LinkedIn profile. You know, we're not looking for top candidates. We're looking for top performers. So we want to learn how they think and how they accept responsibility. We want to know how they have a sense of humor, because that's crucial to high performance. So, how are they likely to approach their work? How are they likely to behave as an individual? How are they likely to interact with others? And how do they weather challenge and adversity? I want to know that. And that's where that psychometric tool comes in. So, the tool asked, see, I just did this. I'm expert in it because I've done it. The tool asked me about 80 questions about this job. I was trying to fill a marketing job. And marketing and salespeople are the worst, right? So I answered all these questions about the chord of things needed in this job and our culture. So the assessment knew about us and this job. Then it sorted, see that fit score over there? It sorted for me. Everybody came in and took it. Why? Because it's an unlimited license for $180 a month. I ran 70 people through it for 180 bucks. Yes, because I'm frugal, because I have a CFO who says don't spend money that we don't need. Okay, so here's my case study. I got 71 applicants, 63 took the assessment. The 8 that didn't self-selected out. It was apparently too much work. Thank you, you may keep the pen. I took the top 12. Phone screen quickly told me 3 were not a fit. Face-to-face interview, 1 chose not to show up. Quickly, there was a final 2. And it was interesting. The final 2 was someone who hit every check mark of skills, but I wasn't sure about the culture. And one who was a perfect fit for our culture, but it would be a stretch assignment. Who would you choose, skills or culture? She starts next week. Yeah. Total time it took from start to finish was 6 weeks. Also, you have to move fast because they have a lot of options. I was seeing, pick this up at a fast food joint coming here. Find jobs fast. Are you familiar with Yelp? Yelp lets you find coffee shop near here, right? This is Yelp for jobs. Find job near here because jobs are consumable. I mean, everybody wants them. So they could be near their house and say, okay, find me a job that I can walk to. Interesting.
Hey, Carl, I got to stop you 1 second here.
All right.
You, on your decision to hire, you picked the one that was stretch and values.
Yes.
And yet the person with all the skills to get to that point, did they not have a pretty high fit with your organization?
Now, please explain why this is a good question from him. Explain to the room who you are and what you do.
A sales and marketing guy.
Yeah. With a background in recruiting. So, both of them were a good fit, scored above 90. But now, in this final race, you can really see differences between the two. Okay, so both were in their 90s. Both would have been a fit. One was a better fit. You know.
But how much were the skills differential? Close or pretty far?
That's a fair point. The question is, how close were the skills? I would say one was 100% fit and one was 80%.
So in 6 months you get to figure out whether you stretched your skills too much or not.
So in 6 months we get to find out if we stretched our skills too much or not. That's fair. Test fast, fail fast, adjust fast. But this is an organization that has pulled people aside and told them, you're hitting your numbers, clients like you, you're just a jerk. We need to fix that. You get one warning. And 6 weeks later, they weren't with us. And have you ever fired somebody and had morale go up? Excellent. So, big point today, hire for values and attitudes, teaching the skills. With an asterisk, there's certain areas you got to have certain core skills. So if you have 15 applicants and they all have the skills, then shift to the values. Look at your job descriptions and see if they actually match the requirements for the job. A lot of stuff is, since 2008, we have not had to pay too much attention to our job descriptions because everybody's been scared and working. That's over now. This year is normal. Next year is normal. High performers are looking at each other saying it's time to move. If you can engage with your management and engage by having high quality coworkers join them, flatter them by hiring people smarter than them so that they can learn, they'll stay. Promote from within. Your first level people are ready to move up. Okay. How are we doing? That was my hiring moment. What did we learn? Give me 2 or 3 things we learned from that. Ready, go.
Our own attitude.
Pardon me? Fit. Yeah. What else? One more. We're not moving on until we get one more. I'm sorry. Pardon me? Culture over skills. Jim, want anything to add to that? We can move on now. Would you do me a favor, hand these out?
Sure.
I got an offer for you. If you want me to come in and try this tool out for free, I'd love to. I want to practice this. In 2 months, I have to do a national presentation on this, and I'm an expert by having done it once. I need more. I need more. So if you want, give me a call. Okay, 2 simple truths on management. All generations value 3 things: belonging to a group, high integrity leadership, and being rewarded for getting it right. They're the 3 things your managers need to know. And if you want to do one thing this month that will make a difference, is train your first line supervisors in the skill of active listening. What do I mean by active listening? Who here has gone on a vacation this year? Excellent. Would you please stand up? It's our hostess. She's in hospitality. She's fine. Listen to an extroverted manager have a conversation with an employee that could be a bonding moment about their vacation. Well, where'd you go?
Aruba.
Aruba. Have you been to an island before?
I have.
Wow. Last time I went to an island, there were chickens wandering around. Were there chickens on Aruba?
No, no chickens, but goats. Lots of goats.
Oh, I love goat. Why'd you go?
Part of it was vacation, part of it was work.
You have a job where you get to travel?
I do.
Wow. I had a job where I used to be able to travel, but it got me away from my family too. See what's happening? This is an extroverted discussion where I'm telling my vacation story. You have extroverted managers. This is dangerous because everything becomes one-upsmanship unless they are trained to shut up and do this. Vacation, where'd you go?
To Aruba.
Had you been before?
I had not.
Wow, what'd you think?
It was great. The
What-
weather was perfect.
What made it good?
Great weather, beautiful beaches, the ocean was awesome.
Would you go back?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Other islands maybe?
Yeah.
See what I'm doing? It's not about me. She's telling her story. Thank you. A little round of applause for Aruba. Okay. That training moment delivered to your managers will keep more people engaged to their managers because their manager appears to listen to them. Those of us that are extroverts, we have two modes. We're either talking or we're waiting for the other person to stop. Because communication equals engagement. Here's a grid I got from Walker Information. These are fresh numbers. Truly loyal people are only 34% of the workforce right now, and high risk, where they're checking, they're sitting in their boxer shorts watching the last episode of Downton Abbey, and they're surfing, looking for their next spot, or they're getting pinged on LinkedIn of, hey, how about? Okay, and it's your high performers that move. Understand that millennials expect engagement. If you want to engage them, they are focused on customer service. What percentage of your guests are young professionals traveling? Half?
Yeah,
At least half? Are they nuts for customer service?
yes.
I don't envy you. They expect access 24/7. You have to tell millennials when they join you that if they text you at 4 in the morning, you're not responding. Well, maybe you are, but you have issues. They want an undo option on everything. Because they were gamers. Gaming has changed how they respond to everything. Learning closely resembles playing Nintendo, and your training has to become more gamified. That is the correct term. Remember Boomers? We did Candyland. Xers, what game was this?
Oh, that's Zelda.
Zelda, right. This is what millennials had. It was like a full movie. They were a part of it. But they want to learn. They want to learn with technology. They want to learn with each other. They want to learn online in their time and their place and doing things that matter the most and that's most important. So their attitudes, the web is like breathing. Their community is virtual. They come into work and you take away their social network, you have lobotomized them. I'm thinking of Thai for lunch. 300 people vote. Perspective is global. Their career. My son reinvented himself over the summer. He was Carmel High School's highest performing English teacher and just realized it was a grinding work. He loved it, but couldn't grade 300 papers a week for the rest of his life. During summer break, he signed up for coding boot camp in Swift, and by the end of the summer called the school system and said not coming back, and he is now teaching the classes he took. He is a programmer. But the authority is there. They are an expert. So the most important engagement thing you can do, I've already demonstrated. The art of active listening. Bake this into your early training of all of your supervisors.
Another comment or question.
I love having him here. By the way, we have never met. Is that correct, Phil?
knock I always think about millennials is lack of social skills. And I haven't.
They think they're plenty social. It's a different social skill. Interacting face to face with adult humans, not so much. We have to teach them that.
Okay.
Yeah. But they interact a ton.
That's interaction. We talk about working in groups or engaging with other employees. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Understand that well, let me step back a second. If all shoes were Velcro or slip-on, would you need to know to tie a knot? Yes or no? Understand that many of us learned to text when? When we had kids. Because we had to learn their language. Now, there are things we can teach them. There are things they can teach us. This has to be two-way. Texting is so efficient. Emojis add what to it? Emotion. It's also very efficient. Has anyone caught on to the pizza? Is it Pizza Hut that does the emoji ordering? Okay, here's how this works. This is an example of lean theory and the future and how employees want to interact. If you log into Pizza Hut and tell them where you live, what your credit card is, and what's your favorite pizza, and what your cell phone number is, all you have to do from that cell phone is text them what? One image, a pizza slice, and one ASCII character of a pizza slice. And then within 30 minutes, mediocre pizza arrives at your front door. Yeah. Boom. From a benefits communication standpoint, if you're doing an annual benefits briefing on everybody's benefits and burying them under bullet points of the minutia of how to get glasses paid for, you know, how many of your employees' spouses can log on to somewhere and get a briefing on vision care at 3 in the morning? Anybody? Yours can? Yeah. That's where they need to go, because that's when it needs to happen. You know, just-in-time learning. So we really need to, this book project I'm working on, how to explain complex subjects to people that do not care. Well, have it ready for them in bite-sized chunks and simply summarized at a time when they do care. And it's 4 in the morning and they need glasses. You know, that's how we all work. We can be very righteous in saying they need to learn how to properly conjugate verbs. And I'm here to tell you it's a moving target. Yes, they need good English. Yes, there are things we can teach them, but there's things we can teach us. We've got to meet them in the middle. You know, I think it was wrong for some schools to stop teaching cursive writing because we're going to put application forms in front of them. You know, write. Show me you can communicate in written form. That's important. Why? Because that's how our business works, at least now. And so we in human resources have to be able to predict what kind of people and what kind of skills are needed for the future for our organization to survive. And that can include communications. That can include those skills of just getting along. And that's why I like that assessment tool, because it gets us in more of a values alignment. Did that answer your question, Phil?
Yep.
I kind of wandered, but that's how I work. Sorry. They've gotten participation medals and now they come to work and you are their parents. They expect their annual review after that photocopy job. How'd I do? And you're not giving them a constant flow of feedback as seen as negative. So this is that active listening thing again. We will over time teach them to be more self-sufficient, but short term, if you want to keep them, you're going to have to interact with them more than you like because you are their parents. Also, they think they're negotiating for everything. You think they're arguing. I have a 4-year-old granddaughter in the house. Everything is negotiated. Snack time. So we have to set expectations for employees, take the time to properly train them from the start. This is where the onboarding process is so crucial. This is where the welcome aboard process is vital. Set them up for success. Also, let's cycle back to something else we talked about. Remember the scary moments about the new ones coming in on ethics? One of my clients has a little brochure for everyone who joins AC Pro Air Conditioning. And, welcome, here's our value statement, here's our benefits, here's our 401k. Oh, they give an entire page to ethics. It's fascinating. They've got don't worry, that was intentional. See? It's for those of you that are concerned. They drew across the page a line that's dark on one end and it's shaded and light on the other, and a big red line halfway through. And that line is the line between right and wrong. And they say you're going to have a lot of interaction with people. There will be chances to get towards an ethical decision of right and wrong. There is the line between right and wrong. There's a big red octagonal stop sign right here and says, don't even go there. This may be cultural right and wrong. This is our organization's right and wrong. Anything on this line is a fireable offense. Any questions? Interesting question. We had asked earlier, what motivates high performers? One of the biggest things that high performers want is an ethical work environment where people are held accountable and nobody gets away with stuff. That there's a high standard. So we need to hire people to a very high standard. And we need to talk about having a high standard. We had a high-performing sales rep making the organization millions, making themselves hundreds of thousands. And it was found by finance that they were slightly padding their mileage to the tune of $50 to $100 a month. What do you do? They were fired on the spot. And morale went up. Yeah, you have to do it. I predict for the next 10 years, ethics are going to be huge in human resources. Therefore, get a start on it and have a higher ethical standard now, because you will gather and gain high-performing people who hear that your culture rewards high performance, and that your culture is fair and consistent, and that your culture is ethical and high integrity. We also have to be good parents. Remember I said these people are joining as parents? We have to maintain healthy boundaries. It's easy to fall into the trap of being too nice a parent. They want us to be fair and consistent and pleasant. They don't really long-term want to be your buddy because that muddies things. Has anyone had the challenge of trying to coach people from being a first-level employee, a line level, somebody on the line, to become a supervisor? And as a supervisor, the rules are different. Now their friends are not their friends. And that's one of the toughest transitions in business to make. We also need to coach our managers on minimalizing this emotional stuff of being over the top of, I really, really need you to come on time from now on. I know it's hard in traffic and all, but please try to be on time. No. You haven't, let's get a little more law and order into this. I expect you to correct that immediately. It's not harsh, hostile, or critical. It's just an honest observation. And then let your millennial employees know you want to learn from them too. It's two ways. They mentor up on how do you concatenate two columns in an Excel spreadsheet. It's interesting, fast learners or fast forgetters. Man, I have to do that once a quarter, and once a quarter I learn it again. Yeah, and work-life balance is important. Why is it important? Well, if I do all this work-life balance stuff, they're not working. No, they're not burning out. Since 2008, people have, you saw those productivity numbers right at the start? People are cranky. People are burned out. We have to give them some work-life balance. And you'll have a high performer come into your office and say, this is not negotiable. I need every Thursday morning off. And you can't ask them why. You know why it is? Their mom has dialysis. And this is a deal breaker. Are you willing to move from one size fits all, because that's what you were told, to one size fits one? That means everybody in the workplace has to understand that everybody has a different deal and has to be mature enough not to whine about it every time. Because we in HR know that everything you do that's good will be punished. Someone will find a way to whine about it. Well, stop hiring victims, but also understand that the new deal is one size fits one. Jim makes a good point. Aren't the whiners self-selecting out in this paradigm? Yes, they are. But also, I can predict. I have an interesting interview question that predicts victims. Want to hear the question? In general, at work, I have to ask that, stay legal. At work, are you fortunate? Give an example. Are you lucky? I know what you're thinking. Are you lucky? Someone who has an internal locus of control, has a feedback loop, will answer that question of, yeah, I guess I'm fortunate, yeah. Someone with an external feedback loop, where they're controlled by outside forces, will answer, I've always been unlucky, and they will give an example of it. And they will proudly volunteer this because it explains their life. Ask them, in general, at work, are you fortunate? Give an example. And you will be baffled that 10 to 15% of the people will volunteer that they are not fortunate. I've checked all the laws. Unlucky people are not a protected class in the ADA. Yet. It's valid. Oh. Yeah, don't overthank employees constantly. Constant thunder is ignored. Be consistent with your thank yous and be valid with them. But wait a minute, Carl. You just told me to interact with them a lot and tell them they did a lot of good stuff, and now you're telling me to not overthank them. That's right. This is why it's an art of management, not a science. That's why if it was simple people could do it. That's why you have to train your managers and have them with good communication skills. Don't be a jerk. Don't be arrogant. Don't be pushy. Don't give universal rewards. Everybody gets it. That's the corporate equivalent of participation medals that you just hate. So don't do it. Yeah, there's some people that are winners and some that are losers. High performers understand that. So, how'd we do? Pretty quiet. Give me some things you learned from this. This is a chance to push back on me a little bit. I just threw some stuff at you that might have irritated some of you.
Just one little pushback, or question, I guess. Yeah, you talked about them as gamers. Isn't there a gender difference, though? Because I have millennials, too, and
Yeah.
my daughter and her friends did not game in the sense that you showed up there. They were more apt to play a board game.
Games. Yeah.
But they weren't gamers in the sense. So
Yeah. No, that's fair.
can you speak to the gender differences?
Different games, but definitely games. Also, Candy Crush, Farmville. The Facebook is filled with social networking games that are majority female. Okay, they just aren't first-person shooters. Blam, 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 blam. They are strategy and patience games. But from an overall gaming standpoint, I'm looking at my millennial daughter, and she's getting carpal thumb syndrome because she's playing social games on her phone routinely. They see it as a stress relief, and also I will tell you, it is a great mental capacity development thing. True, it was the guys that would whine for an immersive first-person shooter game, and once you finally gave it to them, the next thing they wanted were the cheat codes. And once they had the cheat codes in the game, how long till you saw them again? About 2 weeks? And they were gone. Okay, but let me jump forward on the gaming thing. Anybody here in corporate training? I do a lot of work with corporate training. I come in and do supervisory training. More and more involved, engaged training is a game. You know, let's learn how to, the last one I attended was let's learn how to manage a team remotely. And we're going to do it through a board game. And there was a right and a wrong answer, and it got competitive fast. So I would say, yes, there are games out there. They were different games, but the mindset was very similar. You okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a sensibility that past performance predicts future success, right?
Past performance predicts future success.
So I'm interested in your the way that you cache resumes.
Yep.
Because that throw that out of the window. So if you believe, do you believe there's any truth in that?
Yes, and I hate yes, but I still want a resume or a LinkedIn profile that I can see the pattern. I still believe in that. I wanted to be disruptive this morning and make you realize that the resume doesn't really talk to your culture. It talks to the last cultures they've worked at. And I want something that's X-ray vision that will give me a clue as to whether they're going to fit our culture. And the resume has talking points I want to go to, but as long as they've stayed at a place 18 months or more, nowadays that's not bad. If I'm looking for specific polymer chemistry reagent work, I need proof that they've done that, and the resume will do that. Also, I get a chance to look at their English skills. I'm okay with that. But it's actually secondary. First off, it's somewhat secondary to the values and culture fit, because I can pull the other stuff out. And second, I made the point that high performers often don't keep their resumes current. So if your system requires a resume for the first entry step, you're screening out high performers who are interested in what you're doing, and they log in and see, oh yeah, they got something that's kind of a fit, and the first thing that is required is that they sit down and burn off 8 hours writing a document that they don't like. Have your system welcome them in and maybe do, tell me a little about yourself. We got a form here, we got an assessment, tell me about what you're like, and if you don't have a resume, it's okay, we'll get one later. See that softer approach? I want the high. You saw the numbers at the start of this of how few, you guys are warring with each other for talent. Actually, it's kind of interesting. Look around at the people that aren't here. They don't know this. You now have some secret weapons. What are your powers? Well, I can steal high performers from other people because I have a process. I've built my brand in the marketplace as being someplace that high performers like to work, and I've got a way for them to apply that isn't invasive and doesn't make me sit down and do 8 push-ups and create a polished resume. Get them started at least without the resume. See that logic? I'm trying to be a little disruptive here. You know, I'm trying to tell you where things are going. I'm an agent from the future, telling you where things are going, where they were, or not where they are.
You mentioned millennials like to move around a lot.
That's millennials like to change jobs. Yes.
So the practices that you are recommending here will likely keep a millennial around longer, but they'll still leave.
Yes, they will.
So is there any data to say how much longer they're going to stay with you?
I'm making this up. We're literally building a ship as we're sailing. I'm trying to give you some tools to get ahead of the competition. I'm in an organization that routinely has high performers about twice a year. We have 120 people. Twice, maybe 3 times a year, a high performer will leave. More than half of them are back within 6 months. And they tell people inside, oh my God, you don't know how nice you have it. Yeah, you know, there can be some churn. Also, many times for someone to get a promotion of 25% inside your current pay grade and structure is impossible. HR won't let them do that. But if they leave and then come back, they can. You know, that's where the jump comes. My sister has a daughter. Daughter has just got her first jobs out of school. Has a friend who called me and said, "Hey, you're Sarah's uncle. You work in HR. I've got a job at 60 grand. My student loans are $80,000. I have just been offered a job for 100 grand. I could pay off my student loans." We talked through it. She took it. Jump, jump, jump. Okay. Will she eventually come back to the place that was paying her 60 grand? She'll have mad skills because she was jumping from a small food production company to a small place called Starbucks. The food production company might hire her back at 120 grand in a couple of years because now she will have skilled herself up. This is the new world.
You just told us we need to be hiring for cultural fit.
Yep.
They play well with each other, we get along. That seems to fly in the face of what we've been told for 20 years. We need to hire for diversity, so we hear all these other opinions that make us as a company.
Oh, interesting point. Oh, you can have both of those. I don't see any. The values alignment is not diversity, is not exclusionary. Yeah, no, that's not a problem. Let me throw one other thing out here I kind of discovered on ethics, back to ethics. Who is more likely to have a culture prone to embezzlement and fraud? An employer of choice, where everyone it's all happiness and rainbows and unicorns? Or theory X, command and control, no one trusts each other? Rainbows. Yeah. A softer work environment. People trust each other more and don't see the flags for fraud. And a wolf can get in the hen house there and steal. Is that fair? We're not sure what to do about that yet. So have a good environment and have good cash controls. Oh, this is not a perfect world. I'm here as a reporter from the front, and some of my advice conflicts with itself. I understand that. One last thing, and then Phil's going to take over.
I had one last question.
Oh, well, there you go.
This idea of underemployment, I mean, you hear a lot about it. You talk about
Yep.
having unemployment rates fairly low, but a lot of, I mean, all the college kids that we
have interaction with here at Purdue, you hear so many of them are underemployed for their educational levels and they struggle.
Question is about underemployment. Joke. How do you get the history major off your front porch? Answer. Pay them for the pizza. Bada boom. We have had an artificial time where people have been scared, where organizations have plenty of cash, but you saw the productivity curve? Our productivity is huge, so we have had a jobless recovery, and that causes this problem. That's over. The big topics inside HR are comp and compensation and pay and compensation. Oh, and the talent shortage. We're now to the point that salaries are going to rise faster than inflation. And we're now at the point that the only growth that can happen will require human resources convincing finance to hire some people. We need some bodies in here. And so over the next decade, the underemployment will stop. You think that's true?
You got a lot of participation rate to burn off. It's going to be slower than people think.
It's going to be slower than people think, says Jim. Think that's true?
I agree.
He agrees.
But in the end,
In the end,
you're probably right.
also, the boomers are secretly looking at a number taped up to the morning mirror. The number is their 401k. How's the stock market doing? It's climbing back up. It's over 17,000. I predict within the next 18 months, 40 to 60% of the boomers in professional work in Tippecanoe County are going to start making moves to retirement. What's the outcome going to be? You will have a hard time finding a dentist in this town. There's going to be spotty shortages of high service professions that are mostly boomers. Because many of us are hostile passengers. We thought we'd be in Naples by now, Florida or Italy. And when our 401ks became 201ks, it's taken a while to fight out of it. And so the delay in mass retirements has been helpful from a staffing standpoint. Now the millennials are here. And good news, they can take over. Bad news, they're going to take over. Thank you very much, and back to